Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our weekly tech live stream where we cover various analytic AI and cloud topics. Just wanted to mention that the best way to keep up with whatever appeals to you most is probably on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/PM Square. Or you can see upcoming events and maybe even sign up for event notifications or even our newsletter at our website at pmsquare.com/events. A couple of weeks back, Greg and I covered the realities of living in a world where most of us have several analytics tools in play. And we spoke about how a UBI or AC solution could really help. And when I say UBI, I mean Universal Business Intelligence. And when I say AC, that's kind of more the industry analyst Gartner's term for UBI. They call it analytics catalog. But we think these solutions are really helpful. And what we did, a couple of weeks back was really kind of a 100 level sort of course, kind of like a level setting of the value prop of Universal BI or analytics catalogs. But today we're going to take more of a 200 or 300 level sort of approach to things. We're going to do more of a deep dive into what devs and admins might see and do to enable analytics consumption through a UBI or AC portal. So I'm Craig Colangelo. I'm a senior solutions architect with PM Square, and I've been leading analytics teams for over 20 years as a data warehouse director, a BI manager, developer, a lead on an EDW team, and as a consultant. I've got to see analytics from a lot of different angles. And that's why I think I can offer a bit of a unique perspective on what these universal BI portals or analytic catalog portals can offer and what they can add to our existing analytics practices. Joining me today is Greg Jungels. Say hi, Greg, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Greg. Tell us about yourself.
All right. Repeat. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. So my name is Greg Jungels. I'm one of the solutions consultants here at PM Square. And like Craig, I've got many, many, many years of experience in all things data. And one of the things that we talked about last time was the fact that, the reality of the business intelligence world is that there is no company out there that uses one tool solely. So, like you said, this is an awesome product to be able to marry all of your different tools together.
Marry them up, yeah, and present them all through a single pane of glass. There's a lot of inherent benefits and value that comes from it. Angie, if you wouldn't mind posting in our chat here or in the comments of the YouTube channel something that would point people towards the artifacts that we've created on StoryDoc that kind of show the value prop. Greg, today let's take a kind of a more in-depth look. Let's kind of approach this. Like I said last week, we kind of took like a business value perspective. This week, let's take a look at kind of from a developer or admin's perspective, like what they might want to look out for. I'll interrupt with questions if you don't mind, and we'll just kind of start looking at under the covers of what one of these analytics catalog or universal BI portals kind of avail.
Sure. Let's get my screen up here.
It's always a fun chore trying to figure out which screen you want to share.
Yeah, and every tool we use, again, just like what we're going to talk about, every tool we use to present shows us a different thing here. So,
Yep.
How come I can't find my screen? All right, let's do this real quick and see what happens. How about that?
Yeah, there we go. Digital Hive. Okay, so we're switching up a little bit. So we're last week we kind of drove from IBM's ACH. So today you're going to show us another sort of a UBI ACH or AC tool called Digital Hive. Tell us more.
Yeah, so just a quick overview here. So IBM's Analyst Content Hub is kind of a rebranded Digital Hive, and what I've done here is I've got two different environments set up, and I kind of have content set up in both that are a little bit different. So I wanted to show you this one because I happen to have a little bit more advanced uh, content in here.
Gotcha. Makes sense. And these aren't the only ones, right, Greg? There are others out there as well, right?
Sure, yeah. Um,
Gotcha.
so this is obviously I've just logged in, and this is presenting me with the like my homepage, my home hive, if you want to call it that. Um, but as you mentioned, we're going to go right into the kind of the admin side, the back end, where you do all your development and manage everything here, right? So what I've done here is I've kind of gone here to the what they call the control center, and gives me a quick overview of kind of like how all of the connections are working. Gives me a couple of the hot items here to do, such as adding users, customizing the content, managing security, etc. Right. So you asked what we can look at this from an admin perspective, and we can look at it from a developer standpoint, right? They can be two individuals, they can be one of the same. So what I've got here is um, I'll start out with let's start out with like the security aspect of everything, right?
Cool.
So what I'm going to do here is I've gone into the security here, and this is licensed on a per user basis the way I've got it set up. However, you can tie this directly to any of your authentication sources, like Azure AD, Okta, whatever you happen to be using, right?
And can you
And
use, Greg, can you use groups and like roles and stuff within those security providers, or is it just at like the lowest node level, like a user?
so I haven't gone through the whole configuration yet of getting it tied to our AD, so
Hmm.
I can't answer that specifically, but
Okay.
I'll do my best with what I've got here.
Oh, well, I
About
see.
that.
Gotcha. I see underneath where it says users, there's a roles section there. So I wonder, I mean, certainly you can create roles within the product itself, right? If you need to, but
So so yeah,
I would
so
assume.
So yeah, so I mean, I can kind of relate this to how Cognos is set up, right? I mean, Cognos, you tie that to your authentication source, and then you can have groups and roles within Cognos. You can have your groups and roles within your authentication source, right? And it can be an exciting project to kind of marry the two and make it all work. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of where we're at here with this stuff too, right? So what I've done here is I can create users and add as many users as you want. You can actually, if you have this tied to your authentication system, such as Azure, what we can do is anyone that has access to the URL can log in, but they're not really set up with security to be able to see all of the different content. So they may just be presented with a blank screen, right? But the reality is anybody can log in, and you can actually set that so anyone cannot log in. All right. Um, but anyway, what I've got here is I've got users set up here, and we can create roles. I've got admin role, the author role, consumer, an owner. I can create a marketing role. I can create sales roles. I can create IT roles, whatever. And then of course they all have different capabilities that they can do, right? So if I want to set up a marketing group that can only consume content here, that's what I would do is I'd create a new role and then set up whatever capabilities I want for security.
Gotcha. And can you, so you can, check uncheck specific capabilities depending on the role. That's great.
Correct. Yep. So then let's see here. So there's that, and I'm going to pull up this one user here, maybe. And what I can do as an admin, I can set which hives they have access to. So again, if you were part of the last event that we did here, I kind of showed you how I had multiple hives. I can have, again, you can have them for marketing, you can have them for sales. If you're a multi-company organization, you can have one for company A, one for company B, right? And then within the security, you can set who has access to which hive. You can set their default hive. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do here.
All right, that's awesome. I'm really glad to see that you can set the defaults. So, I mean, it is a form of customization, right? To where, if you have an executive, you can land them on the executive stream, right? Not just into some general find what you want. It's kind of tailored to them. That's kind of the whole purpose of, this curated look of analytics, right? So, for a lot of us, we have all these rich analytic systems that are, varied and all over the place, right? And making sure that we extract the right value out of them is kind of sometimes hard to do. So this seems like a really solid way to curate the UX, the user experience, so that they get the most out of each of the analytics tools, regardless of which one their object happens to live in, right?
Yeah, definitely. And one of the nice things about this is kind of like a hierarchical nature, right? So I can set this. I can actually create a role out there that has kind of like generic access to some things, right? Like let's say your company homepage, just basically your, some generic information, and I can set this to inherit from that role. So that way I don't have to go into every single role that I've created and set everything specifically.
Very cool.
And then, like I said here, if you have it tied to your AD, you can add your users in directly from that.
All right, so this has been on security. So I'm sure like all the normal SAML, LDAP, OIDC, providers are all supported for most of these tools. What about like email and integration with like productivity tools like Slack or Teams? I know that some of them have that capability. Do you happen to know if Digital Hive does, Greg?
You know what? I can't say that I've gotten into that side of things yet. So we'll have to
Okay,
use that for like the 300 level class.
gotcha. It shows a bit around content, so you can customize. Can you customize the UX based on? We talked about roles, right? So, and we talked about landing users in a specific default place. What about customization? Can you like customize the UX to represent your own branding and things like that?
So yeah, definitely. As you saw when I logged in here, I had set it to I had an RPM Square logo in there, had some set some colors and stuff like that. And if I were to go back into the Hive, you can see how I've kind of colorized all of that stuff too, right? I've
Hmm.
done some demos for some clients here and was able to go out and grab their logos and their colors and totally customize it that way, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
and one of the things here I like to point out here is this interest section, right? So I have different interests I can add in here. Let's say I know you like soccer, right? So let's just add soccer in here.
Oh, you mean football? Gotcha. I'm
Exactly,
just kidding.
exactly. Um, so anyway, what that is so now as a user, when I log in, I can actually go into my preferences and I can say, look at all the different interests out there. So then, when you create content, I'm in any of your different systems or whatever, and add it to the Hive or whatever,
Hmm.
you can now go in and say, "Oh, I'm part of marketing, and I like soccer." Okay, so or football. So basically, what happens is anytime that any content is tagged with those interests, that'll kind of show up in one of your swim lanes, right?
That's cool. Okay, so you don't just have to. So all right, so you don't have to search for stuff. You can have stuff come to you via your interests that you click, and what the admin and developers set on the back end. That's really cool.
Exactly.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and I'll show. Hopefully, I'll get to that where I can show you how we do that too, right? So again, you got some of your default system settings here, showing a welcome screen, and as a user, I can say that I don't want to see that, so it's very personalizable. As far as colors go, I mean, they've got some themes out here that you can use. We can create our own whole new scheme. I've actually taken one of these schemes before and exported it, and then it's basically like I can go in and edit the file and put in all my changes there and then re-import it. Sometimes it's a little bit quicker to do things like that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And again, here's kind of some of the out of the box themes that they have. And you see here that so anybody that logs in here, I can choose my own theme, right? So, a lot of us like to use dark mode now, and instead of the old school, light and bright screens. But what I can do here is I can actually set up different themes and share them with the different roles and users, right? So maybe there's some themes out here that I don't want people to look at because maybe they kind of jazz up the display, and then, it just doesn't really look that nice, right?
Hmm.
Then here, like I said, I was able to go in here and change my login screen to be anything you want. And there are so many settings in here. It's mind-boggling. One of the really cool things here, and this kind of ties back to what I was talking about in the previous session, was these visual cues, right? So what that means is, let's say in the when you go back, when you're looking at a Hive and you're in the search mode or whatever, and it shows you all the different thumbnails of everything, and sometimes you'll see these little icons up in the corner, right?
Hmm.
So I can set this so there are none of those cues, so you won't see any of those little icons. I can say just have one, or I can have all up to two, right? And
Awesome.
what's really cool about this is, when you like, this is set up right now for new content, right? So anytime new content is added to here, um, it's actually tagged with this new icon, right? And what happens is that'll stay like that for like the first 2 weeks. So that's kind of cool. If you're out there and your development team is, you know, uh, creating new reports, new visualizations, or whatever, and you really want to introduce them to the world, well, guess what? It's automatically going to pop up as a new thing. And if you have a swim lane set up down there, you can have a swim lane set up for new items. So now every time I log in, it's going to show me all the new stuff. So
Very cool.
yeah.
All right,
Uh,
so we talked real quick, Greg. I got a question. So, obviously, part of the value add for these ACH or type, tools is to be able to add metadata, right? And I saw you touched on tagging in one of the other screens there, and there was like even a tag dictionary. When you're adding, I love the idea of being able to you know, I don't know, expose kind of like what's blessed and what's not, right? What is like a corporate data source versus what is, Greg manipulating a spreadsheet on his, desktop and then throwing it up into combined with corporate data, right? I kind of want to know the difference. So, if you were using some sort of like a, I don't know, kind of like if you think about like a data warehouse and you have like a, medallion sort of an approach where you've got, bronze, silver, gold, or if you've got like a blessed or unblessed, like sort of a metadata tag that you could add to it. What do you think would be the best approach? Would it be through those visual cues or would it be through tagging it with a specific, tag?
how about the answer to that would be both, right?
Okay.
So let's go in here and let's create a new rule here, and I'm gonna change this to has tag. Actually, let's do. Oh, come on. All right, I'll just do this. Let's say hashtag coffee. All right.
Hmm.
So now, if I go into my content here and go in here, click on content, my content systems. Let's see if I have anything here that says coffee. So now I can go into these items here, and if I add a tag of coffee,
Hmm.
now, again, I can set up a like a swim lane or whatever that says, here are all things that are coffee related, right?
Very cool. And you
And
can search on that too, right?
yeah, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you that I could basically you could set up like a certified tag,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
So now, anytime, because with all this self-service analytics and everything, everybody wants to go out there and do their own thing, right? But there's
Mhm.
also a time where you need to have, finely curated assets, right? You're going to have reports that, this is the gospel, right? So what I can do is I can create a tag out there for certified, and then set a rule that, for anything that says certified or whatever, that it'll show up in as again as certified, right?
Very cool. Okay, let's talk to a little bit about like machine learning components within there. A lot of these tools I know they take into account, how you and your peers are interacting with the content, and then tailoring things based on that. Does Digital Hive do that as well?
So yeah, they have kind of their I'll call it kind of like a pseudo AI, generative AI approach to this, right? With their IQ part of this. And I don't currently have that running. I could have. I wish I'd have had a little bit more insight on that. I would have got it up and running and shown you. But basically, what this is it's a way that the system kind of learns what you are viewing, right? And
Okay,
again, when you're in these hives and you have all these different visualizations, reports, and stuff like that, and you're clicking through it, part of this process is the auditing of everything, right? So the product keeps track of every single click that happens in here, right? So whatever you're looking at, it kind of that IQ part piece of this is going to learn the things that you are going through. Like I keep clicking on coffee marketing and coffee operations, so it's going to learn that, oh, I must like coffee. I must like marketing. I must like operations. So it's going to start recommending you know other assets to kind of look at for that.
gotcha. That makes sense. Since we're touching on AI and generative AI, I know some of these tools actually have integrated like co-pilots or concierge, sort of a generative AI, large language model, natural language processing sort of approaches to things. Does Digital Hive, is that kind of part of IQ or no?
Well, I'll say yes and no. Constantly working on trying to improve that and come up with use cases for, adding that kind of intelligence, if you want to call it that. But again, reaching back to our last conversation that we had, I showed you how we at PM Square were able to implement Watson X AI assistant and orchestrate, uh, and to be able to interact between, I was able to write data directly to a planning analytics cube and then have a Cognos Analytics visualization update right there automatically, right? And then another piece of it was that I don't think I showed this last time, but what we've also done is we've done some kind of like workflow stuff with Orchestrate as well. So as a user, I could go in there. You know what? How about this? Can I give you a show this real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. I love the fact that we can integrate external generative AI sources. Because I mean, if you think about where a lot of applications are headed these days, everything has like AI enabled workflows, right? But the reality is that this is such a versatile pane of glass that can link out to so many different content systems and analytics systems. Really, what you want is to be able to define your own workflows, right? And be able to say, for example, I didn't have access to the dashboard that you're showing there at the top for the April 2024 revenue for the Porsche Cayenne. Like I would want to be able to request access to that and have it automatically go through some, BI workflow where, I don't know, maybe the governance process where the, data steward or owner kind of either grants or denies access to that asset, right? So what you're saying, Greg, is that we can do external integrations with generative AI features in order to kind of do our own custom AI enabled workflows, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And like I said, as you can see here, we've created our own little Watson X AI assistant, and what I can do here is I can say, hey, let's say I'm looking at all this stuff and I go, hey, I want to learn something new. So I'll just ask this really quick. What can I learn today? And this should give me some suggestions, right? It's like I can sign up for Python, I can sign up for some administration, I can sign up for reporting. So if I'm going to go, let's say I want to learn some reporting. So I want to be able to go into the tool itself and start creating my own content, right? So again, it provides me we've had to basically code this all, and we've said, okay, do you want to do a reporting one, reporting two, or reporting three? Basically different levels, right? So if I
Mhm.
say I'm going to go to level three, it's going to say, oh man, just so you know, it's $1,500 and it requires out of town travel. So now I can actually proceed to travel cost estimation, right? And it might go out. We might have this set up to, uh, uh, actually, it looks like it might not be set up that way. I should have done the level two. Anyway, so the whole point is that we could have this go out to um, your different travel websites now and get flights, and it can say, well, where is this travel? Where do you have to go to? Where do you have to go from and to? Well, I want to
Yeah,
go
how
from
cool.
Chicago area to Denver. All right, so I can type that all in there, and it's going to go out there and it's going to scour it, and it's going to try to find me flights. It's going to try to maybe find me hotels and cars, all kinds of stuff, right?
Very cool. And I think it's also important to point out too on this screen here that you're showing, from a developer's perspective, what you're doing is it's like a composite sort of a dashboard, right? So you've got components from Watson X, you've got Planning Analytics, you've got Cognos, you've got these disparate systems. They all happen to be in this particular instance in the IBM stack, but it could be from anywhere, and you can actually create this composite look across the different tech. Greg, can you also filter? Like, could you add a filter that would be able to filter all the widgets or objects there, even though they might exist in a different, analytics tool?
So that's where I guess it gets a little challenging, right? Because like if I had a Power BI visualization up here and I had that over Power Planning Analytics cube data, this is a Planning Analytics workbook, right? Um, right now, you can't really interact between tools, and obviously that comes down to your different security levels between everything. If you have to have everything modeled appropriately between the tools, right? So maybe I don't have the data modeled the same way between Cognos and Power BI. So I mean that's kind
Gotcha.
of a challenge, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting things that these universal BI portals or analytic contact tools can do. They can send you email summaries at the end of the day. You can almost do alerting within there and set performance thresholds or like event notifications using the actual tools themselves. A lot of them have mobile apps, or at least are kind of like mobile ready. Have you tried consuming any of this content on a mobile device, Greg?
I have not yet.
Okay.
I don't really know where they stand with that right now, so.
Yeah, I mean, I love that idea, and I love the idea too of like tying it to your, governance or data catalogs or lineage tools, right? So, if you've got a mature practice, and you've got, say, for example, a data cataloging tool. Well, this adds, additional metadata. What more fantastic a place than here to be able to incorporate external metadata plus the analytics content metadata plus the metadata that you're adding within these UBI ACE tools.
Oh, definitely. So this
Cool.
kind of goes back to the initial conversation we had. Also, is like I've gone into this actual report here as a user. I've logged in and I can go in here and I've added a tag. So now IT will be in here as well. But let's say I want to go in and I'm going to leave this a bad you know this report really didn't.
Oof, it's like Yelpers for analytics. You're
Yeah,
scaring me, Greg.
I just learned a new thing, like was it Belly or something like that about for restaurant reviews and everything. I don't know. I had a
Is that
bad
the new one?
experience.
Belly? Yeah.
I had a bad experience. My wife and I went down to Florida for her birthday weekend and had a bad experience with some Yelp reviews. So
Mm,
I'm kind
we
of
all do.
I'm kind of thinking that we need to find a new some kind of review platform. Anyway, my point is, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say this is 1 star. Didn't really like this, right? So what we're working on right now is in the back end. It kind of goes in with all the auditing stuff, right? Is I want to be able to maybe have some trigger set up or whatever. So if somebody's out here and does a bad review of one of these items, that it will automatically through like a workflow send an email or whatever to the development team and say, "Hey, look, somebody doesn't like this,"
How cool. Yeah, what
and
a
then
great idea.
we can go right in and we can make changes or updates or whatever, right? And then again,
Mhm.
as part of the storytelling of this, right? So let me jump back here again. Um, so let's say that you have a visualization here and as I said, a lot of times, we build these cool visualizations that we think are cool and we think it tells a story. But if you look at it, you're like, well, what is this really telling me, right? That kind of
Mhm.
gets back into the storytelling aspect of things. So now I can, I can create all this content here, and I'll show you how we do that. Actually, I'm going to pick a different one because I don't want to mess my stuff up too much. So this is now I'm going to step into kind of like the developer role, right? So the canvas that we have, again, there's so many different things you can do here. If you recall, on this one I had my little page list on the left side. On this one I've got my page list on the top side here, right? Um, all these different things I can do. I can embed viewers. So let's say um, again for Cognos is I'll create a new page here. Blank page, and I'm going to add an embedded viewer here, and then this basically will allow me to link to any of the content that I've brought in. And then as I'm doing this, I can resize it, I can move it around, I can do all kinds of stuff, right? So let's say I bring in a little text box here, and I can put in there, this tells me the whole story, right? So now, again, it kind of gives you that whole storytelling aspect of things, right?
Very cool
Uh,
narrative. Yeah.
yeah, same thing along the lines of the content lane, right? I'm going to drag a content lane down here. And this is set up for favorites, but I can have it set up for recommendations. I can point it to a specific folder. So again, let's say
Oh
we have a
man.
marketing folder set up. I didn't really kind of take a step back here, but let's say we had a folder in our content system set up for, marketing. So now I can point that right there, and boom, they have everything that they need, right? Or let's say you have an executive folder, right? Here's a few things that I want the executives to focus on, and they're all right there.
That's amazing. Talk about curating. I mean, that's really what this is all about, right? So we have all these different panes of glass to view, all these different analytic tools that we all support, and Digital Hive seems like a really fantastic way to expose all these, curated objects in a very specific manner based on the persona of the group that's consuming the information. So, I mean, you can imagine, obviously, if you think executives, this would be a very easy sort of a persona to envision, creating within this UBI portal. But real quick, Greg, I wanted to. Mike Norris is commenting in the chat
Oh,
here, and Mike said, so Mike is a Digital Hive. I think he's a CEO, COO. He said yes to groups and roles, and he said there is integration with Teams, and there is that interaction between the tools in Digital Hive. That filtering is called unified filtering. And it has kind of a mapping exercise that you have to do behind the scenes when you've got different language or different categories or different mapping from one to the other, whether it's Cognos to Power BI or Tableau to Power BI or what have you, right? So hopefully that sheds a little more light for us on some of those outstanding questions that we had. So, real quick, Greg, we don't have a whole lot more time, but if you could touch on, finish up with whatever you want here, but if we could also touch on auditing too, I think that'd be really helpful. Because, I mean, again, in my mind, one of the real big values here is that you can audit across so your entire analytics function, right? So you can audit across. You don't have to go into each individual tool. You can literally audit, usage within Digital Hive itself across all the different tools. And hopefully, you can also use this to be able to identify either under allocation or over allocation of licensing and then kind of do true ups using this tool, right? Because that would be fantastic for an admin.
yeah, you just combine like, a whole nother session into one sentence right
The
there.
400, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, as you said, so what we've got here is we basically built out a Cognos package, model and package over the Digital Hive content store. And as I said, it keeps track of everything that goes on within the tool, right? So I can see how many reports were executed. I can see how many reports reviewed. You can see which content system is being used the most, right? So let's say, oh well, we have this Cognos training environment out there, but it doesn't really look like it's being used that much, right?
Mhm.
Or you can drill down into actual, like, what reports are being run and what visualizations are being accessed.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
So
can
then,
even make decisions around when to bring systems down based on what you're seeing here.
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, again, it, they've thought of everything, right? I shouldn't say everything. We've thought of some things that I want to see added to the tool, but I'm sure we'll get them in there.
Yeah.
But again, now getting back to your licensing thing, right? So that kind of ties us back to what I've done here in this one. This is kind of more of an IT admin hive. So I've got access to our Thrive environment right here. Uh,
Mhm.
it's one of the things I love talking about, right? Because as part of the Thrive here, it kind of gives us our pulse, our heartbeat of our Cognos environment. And one of the things that we have here is our licensing, right? So I can go in here and I can see how many licenses we own and how many we're actually using. And here it tells us that we're out of licensing compliance. So that's when I say, better reach out to your PM Square account executive to get that straightened out for you, right?
Gotcha. So an
Um,
example of linking to an external system, in this case, PM Square's Thrive, in order to kind of manage your licenses or license consumption. Is there anything within the tool itself that you know of that where you don't have to link out to an external that you can kind of gauge across all the different platforms?
At this time, I don't believe so. I think, like, so basically what you're saying is, let's say I have Tableau, I've got Power BI, and any number of the different connectors here that I can show you.
Mhm.
Um, uh, right now, I don't think there's a way to actually go and query them all to see how many licenses you have for each individual tool. I mean,
Gotcha.
that would be pretty cool, but I'm sure that would be a pretty big ask.
Well, yeah, and the truth is, just like any other, composite dashboard here, you could create, objects within each individual one, kind of like you could do either pointing to Thrive or using the Cognos Audit database in order to be able to, create individual metric panes for each of the tools, and then throw it together in a composite dashboard sort of a style within Digital Hive here, huh?
Oh, definitely. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So lots of different ways to skin that cat. Very cool. All right. So we only have a few more minutes here, Greg. You want to show us anything else that seems super germane right now?
Uh, I don't know. I can't really think of anything. I mean, other than, like I said, you go in here and you can customize everything. I mean, this is for just a separate, one little visualization here. I can, colorize and sections. You can, uh, where was it at? Yeah. So I mean, again, there's so much that you can do. Again, we should have another session for just like a developer side of things, right?
Sure, sure. Maybe we'll have Mike Norris point somebody on the Digital Hive side too. We'll have him join us. Mike actually just chimed in again and said that the Digital Hive auditing will show you the users and accounts, but of course it doesn't know, quite what you're licensed for in each of the tools. But obviously that's an easy integration if you wanted to. But yeah, certainly you can use composite dashboards to show that as well.
Yeah,
So
like I said, as
lots of
far as audit stuff goes as well, sorry, is one of the things that I want to do is, remember how I was telling you about how we're going to try to set up like a workflow. So if you gave a 1-star review to an item or whatever, it would maybe
Mhm.
automatically send something out, right? So I want to build out the audit capabilities around that too. So maybe I can have a Cognos report, and that kind of gives us right here. So again, let me show you. So as a user here, go back into the my preferences side of things. I can see that these are all the different systems that I have connectors for, right? And I've got my different users and credentials there. So what I can do with the tool here is I can click on this and go to, whoops, where'd it go? Oh, here we go. I click on there and I go to apps, and I want to go to create a report in our training environment, it'll open up Cognos and go right there. So now I can build
Oh,
out. I can build out the tool, the report right there, and then go back into Digital Hive and add that content.
very cool. So, okay, so in addition to curation, there's also links to creation. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so queuing up things for a further talk webinar here, live stream, Greg. I think maybe we'll invite Digital Hive to join us, and we'll talk a little bit about integrations with productivity tools like Slack, Teams, things like that. What it takes to get that done. Talk a little bit about integrations with data catalogs outside of the data catalog that is inherently Digital Hive, things like tying to governance and workflows. Maybe kind of get their take if they're interested, if their game seems like they might be. But man, what a powerful tool! What a fantastic way to curate and show analytics and show the value of the hard work that all of us have put into creating these things. I mean, the reality is oftentimes you've got teams and you've got decades almost of analytic content creation that kind of sit behind these silos, these walls, these multiple panes of glass. What a great idea to have a single pane to access it all. I
Yeah, and
love it.
again, one of the great things about what they've done here is they've basically made like everything exportable and importable, right? So let's
Mm,
say I've got a hive that I want to move from here to a production environment. This is our development where I can move it to a production environment easily. Let's say I am rebranding. I know PM Square, we're going through a total rebranding of our website, right? So maybe the colors are going to change, the fonts are going to change, and like that. I can export that to files, and then I can manually go in there and make changes, mass changes, without having to
very
click
cool.
through the tool.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very valuable. I can imagine for specifically like tagging, rather than using the UI to input that stuff, you can actually have a tag manager, sort of an application that you can import and export. That's really smart. I love that. So you're not kind of siloed in, you're not boxed in. You can kind of take data from within Digital Hive to outside of Digital Hive and manipulate it there. That's
Yep.
great. Okay. Well, Greg, thanks a bunch. I appreciate the tour and a little bit deeper dive into the admin and developers perspective. I'm sure there's so much more that we could cover, but as you know, we're trying to keep these live streams to about 45 minutes or less. So next time, I think we will invite Digital Hive. We'll have them pull somebody on, and we can interrogate them. How's that sound?
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how little content you can get through in 30 to 45 minutes, you know?
Don't I know it? Yeah. Well, at least we didn't take any silly tangents on scuba diving or yelping in Florida.
Yep.
Anyway, Greg, thanks. I always appreciate it, and thank you, viewers, for joining us. Until next time, take care.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
We'll see you.